right? Because even if vaccinated people themselves aren't going to get sick from COVID, the prospect that by getting vaccinated, you might protect yourself, but you could still potentially get infected, not have any symptoms, and then unknowingly pass it on to other people. You'd be protecting yourself. You'd still be a risk to others. That prospect has been looming. And that uncertainty has made it woollier and harder to think about how really your life is actually going to change all that much if you're vaccinated, but you're still potentially a risk to any non-vaccinated person. Getting a hold of that information about whether you can get infected once you're vaccinated and potentially pass it to somebody else, that's really important. Well, today the CDC reported new data that shows that under real-world conditions, not just in a lab, not just extrapolating from tiny numbers of test subjects, but looking at thousands of frontline health workers and essential workers who got vaccinated and who have since been doing their jobs and living in the real world, not only are the vaccines for those folks, thousands of them, keeping those people from getting sick from COVID themselves, those vaccines are also highly effective at preventing those people from getting infected, even with non-symptomatic infection. And if you are not infected, you can't give it to anybody else. And I know this sounds like an incremental piece of news, but sit on this for a second enough to absorb what this means. Right? What this means is that we can get there with vaccines. We can end this thing. It means that instead of the vaccine being able, instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person to person, spreading and spreading, sickening some of them, but not all of them, and the ones that it doesn't sicken don't know they have it, and then they give it to even more people because they didn't recognize they were, right? Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug resistant along the way, now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus. The virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this if we just go fast enough to get the whole population vaccinated. It's huge news.